3, 2. Oh, I guess it's live now. All right. Now here comes the fun part. I'm live here, but I have to. Hi, Marcus. Anyways, now I got to find out where the chat stream is because it turns out that's not as easy to find as you might think. YouTube, I got to find my channel. And it does, because it doesn't show me when I do it on my phone, my live stream, so it takes me a second to go to my channel live. It doesn't do it in a normal live stream thing. So, hello everyone. There I am. It says live now, making a face. Oh, now I gotta mute me. All right, there we go. I gotta pop the chat out. Pop out chat. There we go. Now I can. Cass said hi?
No.
No.
I told her to say hi. He didn't listen.
All right, now I'm ready. So I will start with, last week I talked about the fact that I had, actually let me do this so I'm like in front of this so I can chat and talk to you at the same time. Apparently someone said I said 7-figure, I thought I said 6-figure. Anyways, the big bid, we have a email approval on the bid, so I'm excited about that. So that's going to be really interesting. We're going to try to film more of that project. I'm also way behind on projects. Like I have a lot of videos that I want to do that are partially done, recorded, that have not been edited yet. So I got a little behind on that, including, and I felt a little awkward. I had some of the product companies says, "Hey, we sent you the product," and I'm like, "Yeah, yeah." Is audio choppy or just me? Let's try bringing it closer. See, tell me if this helps.
Chop. There, now I'll use chop.
All right. Does that help with the audio at all? Very choppy. Let me see what it actually says the stream is good, so now I'm. Let me see. And I'm like, yeah. Well, it looks like it's working. Is it working now? I paused a little. Because I actually watching another one, so I guess there is some lag. Okay. Hopefully it's a little better, both audio and video. I guess I could do this over 4G. I'm doing it over my Wi-Fi, which should be fine. Seems better. Audio's fine. Yeah, better right when I read the comment. All right. Maybe it was just a glitch. I really don't have a good answer for that. Anyways, back to the program here before I wander off too much. Okay, so yes, we got approved on that big bid, a big project. That's awesome. We're excited to get started, and I plan to film more of that. That's going to be a lot of fun. But I say got approved. I have some verbals and some confirmations, but approval. For those of you in business and don't know this, approval means I got the deposit check. When I see that check, or this is going to come in via ACH because of the size, like. That when the money comes in, that's really when you know you're approved. Everything else is kind of speculative. Also, and I kind of noticed because I can see myself in the phone here. The lighting's better than last time I was at my house because we got new lights. We put new lights bulbs in my house. Some other exciting news that I can cover for the home edition of this video. YouTube was broken yesterday, for those of you that don't know or live in YouTube land like I do. If you posted a video on YouTube yesterday, it didn't post. The video would show up later. So that was kind of an interesting problem. So I actually had one more video to upload, and I avoided uploading it because you upload things, it just wouldn't go. Wi-Fi enabled bulbs, no. Sorry, don't have such things here. I'm IoT free for the most part. I mean, there are computers here. There's a laptop here. There's a phone here. There's not an IoT stuff. That's why it's like people ask about, what do you call it? Like IoT setups for my house or what gadgets I like. I'm not much of a gadget person when it comes to that. I have normal light switches. You turn them, some slide because they are a slider. That's as advanced as I get, so we can dim them. The other ones are just a bunch of LED lights. So yeah, nothing exciting. Ooh, my son's playing with the lights over there. Leave the lights on, Marcus. He's playing video games over there and waving. He's on that side. It's you don't download anything. You're going to cause lag, Marcus. Anyways,
Downloading.
one of the topics I had for today, and I was going to wait till at least a few of you are here, so I'll talk about a couple things. I am going to have a Synology I've been playing with, so I'm going to have a series of Synology videos. I have some new FreeNAS videos I'm working on. I definitely have a few more firewall videos, and one of the things I may publish, at least one of them beforehand, is going to be some project videos that I have filmed. So there's going to be some of those, including the project where we installed some large-scale Unify, a handful of big deployments. So we want to make sure that we have all that. So I have all those projects covered, how we did them, details behind how we did them, how we made them work, lots of little configuration, things like that. There's going to be videos on some planning. I want to cover the planning side of it, because a lot of people think, well, how do you plan out a job like that? And there are some different things you have to do. So I want to talk about that planning phase and how that works. So that video, there's going to be a handful of videos on that coming. But one of the things I have been doing is hanging out with my friends over at we call it DC 313 for DEF CON 313. It is a group of like-minded security individuals that we all get together and do some meetups where we talk about hacking and we talk about security, we talk about OPSEC and things like that. And the last talk was really good. We had someone come in who was OPSEC for the military, and the talk was really, really on point, and I truly enjoyed it. He does really large-scale OPSEC, some of the red team stuff, some of the breach teams and things like that, where they were really pushing hard for the security breach. But where the conversation got really interesting to me, not that I'm saying the red team stuff wasn't a lot of fun and really interesting, but what got really interesting was when he referred to as, and it's the, you can look this up, this is a law related to investments, and it's a prudent man rule of law and legal definition. And it was really cool because this is something about both business, security especially, and IT service businesses like many of you may work in, either in a position of ownership or in a position of management, or just in general, you are responsible for the company's security. And when you're talking about that, it's not just going over the hey, I know how to secure this, or these are the tools. It gets a lot more detailed than that. And so if you look at my video that I said Oklahoma's not okay, I published that video the other day, and it was the disaster of IT systems that occurred recently in Oklahoma, specifically of all ill-titled names, the Department of Securities was breached. This is where it gets even more confusing. We don't really know that they were breached. We know they had data public-facing and publicly accessible. Public-facing data, publicly accessible is horrible. This is really bad. And people are like, oh yeah, this, that, and the other. But hopefully someone, whoever worked in their IT department, was following the prudent man rules. And what these are just sets of rules and a few ideas. And I may do a separate video on this. I want to bring it up in this video, but I may do a more specific bullet point rule. And what these are is some things you really need to do to cover yourself. If you are in a decision-making capacity in IT, you probably have faced management at some point in time, or clients. Either way, it's the same scenario, even though the nomenclature may be different, where you have said, this is insecure, this is a problem that you have, you should secure this thing. And the client says, no, we don't mind having all of our passwords in the clear. We don't care about two-factor authentication, we blah, blah, blah. Well, this is that whole, comes back to the idea of the prudent man rule. And this was a fun way it was explained at the hacking event I was at, was that you make sure it's not just CYA in a normal way. Like, yeah, I told my boss, right? I'm clear. So when that thing that I said was really insecure gets hacked, I'm clear because I told him, right? It's going a little bit step further than that. It's one, creating documentation about the insecurity, talking about the mitigation of the insecurity, emailing that to the people that are responsible for that decision and saying, these are the steps in mitigation you may take. Or in certain cases, especially if you're an employee, you're like, I'm not sure where this is, so we need to bring in external help to audit this, or you need training. It's all about really concise request documentation in writing. So you email your superior, you talk to the client, you put in writing. These are the things you need to mitigate this level of disaster. Then follow that up with, make sure, especially if you're working internally and you're using your own company email, you CC an external email address. So you CC that external email address, you put that in there and say, these are my documentation. This is what could happen. I've documented very well the potential threats so the person has a good decision, they understand the cost, and you are now covered from that, because I'm really hoping that there's some IT person undoubtedly being deposed right now because of the level of breach, and we're going to bring up the Oklahoma because it's so recent. They're being deposed, they're being grilled by very higher ups going, how did all this occur? And hopefully that person has all their ducks in a row, that has all the things lined up. These are the things I told them to do. They simply chose not to do any of them. Or maybe it's even someone at the lower level that had an inept boss, which that happens sometimes, that doesn't know IT very well, but was at the helm opening these ports to the internet that caused this problem. It's a lot of misconfiguration, it looked like, is what happened. It wasn't malicious per se. It was just, wow, they're gonna blame you in the driver's seat. I see that someone pointed that out, Vic. You're right, they are. You got to expect that. That's something we've dealt with clients. They're gonna blame us. We tell them this server's gonna fail. That is a matter of time. It's making noise. The RAID array is broken, whatever that is. We've directly told clients this, and then it failed. They still are angry, but at least there's someone understanding, because you just bring it up. You do not bring it up in an emergency situation as an I told you so, but you go, look, I told you on December 13th the server had a failure. You decided to ignore it. You decided to roll the dice and gamble with it, knowing that here's the documentation. We just dealt with this again with a client today, and that's also why this comes up. So I just absolutely make sure we were clear. They finally done. The good news is it wasn't a disaster situation, but it was an opportunity for them to remind them. They had an office manager that chose not to listen to us repeatedly. That office manager has decided that they didn't need, that the backups are working and no one should audit it. Our review of this customer, and they're a break fix, not managed client, was that their backups were not occurring. We said we do not see any evidence that backups are occurring, and that's how we documented our review when we were fixing just a firewall. Then we fixed the wireless, and then we fixed a bad network switch. So none of our jobs touched the server, but we did realize the age of the server and things like that, and they had us look at something on it while we were there, and we said, I don't see any backups. And that's the first thing I always check, is there a backup of this? So what I've done is every couple of weeks, or anytime there's some level of engagement because they're break fix, I remind them there is no backups. Finally, their office manager, who was very dismissive of me and my company in terms of not heeding our warnings, the person who took her position seems much more concerned when I reminded them, like, they let us know that she left. They let us know who the new contact was, and it's someone else in the office took that position. And we let them know, hey, this is a reminder. I'm sending it again to you. I reminded your previous office manager, you don't have verifiable backups. And to our knowledge, no one has ever tested your backups. And they responded aptly to it. So it's one of those things. We've had history of doing it. And of course, even the new person, well, has this been brought up before? I'm like, yes, it has. Yes, it's been brought up. Here's, when we sent these emails before, we sent them as reminders. Sometimes even when we send a bill, we're just letting you guys know, your network switch has been replaced, it's fixed, you're back up and running. We still never got any verification on those backups, just letting you know that we still have not observed any backups happening. Boom. You're just covering it. You're not being intrusive. You're not trying to push it. I'm not just trying to upsell you a product. I'm like telling you, your stuff ain't backed up. And you don't have a RAID array. It's all on a single drive server. So it's not like there's even a hope that this thing, if a drive fails, it's going to fail hard. So I wanted to think about that. Like I said, this doesn't have to necessarily apply to you if you're it really applies to any level. You don't have to be a business owner. You don't have to be at the head of IT. You may be a lower tier. You're at the help desk level even. But if you see something, you document it. You organize it. You just say, I did my job. I seen it. I'm documenting, because you may be the one who gets the foot, your feet put to the fire on that. And because, well, it's going to happen. I will answer a couple PFsense questions I've seen pop by. One, traffic shaping. I haven't done a video on it, but I did a video on CoddleQ, and it's really CoddleQ plus the traffic shaping wizard, which is really easy to run. And I've referenced Mark Furman's video if you want an in-depth explainer. He took the time to create graphics on it. Mark Furman did that wonderful PFsense video. It's long, but it's wonderful, and it gives you a good visual representation to how packet queuing works, how traffic shaping works. And if you don't care about all the visuals and graphics, you just want to know how to do it, just run the wizard. The wizard works really well in PFsense. Second question I've seen come up. I have not seen, I've seen someone say a package that's pinning the CPU. I don't know. I haven't seen it. So unaware of it. None of our clients called to complain, and I today was in our PFsense because we were playing with a few things, and I see no issues at all. It was running smooth and happy, so I really have no reference for what you're talking about. I haven't seen it. If you want to drop a link or drop it in our forums, I'm more than happy to discuss it in more depth if you have some example and troubleshoot it. Let's see, Vic G. During our yearly IT audits, they ensure we've tested backup and can be restored. They want proof. Yes, thank you. Some company that wants proof, you work for a good company because they want that. So that's that's something really good there. So definitely good to go ahead and prove it. We do it sometimes even more often than that. Saturday was a bad day for Tom because he did something. I have backups of everything, so I'm able to run beta software and try an idea. The idea was supposed to be a video. The idea ended up Tom restoring virtual machines. So I got to test my backups on a very unscheduled basis. So sometimes I end up testing my own. For customers, we do the same thing. And it's good and bad. The nice thing about, the backup systems is we have a couple clients that have some people that just delete shit. That's all I can say. They just have some bad case of the Mondays, and they test our backups. We have a client that tests them about once a week, and I don't know. Well, it doesn't seem to be as frequent. They've gotten better. We had a client a while ago that was really bad, but they fired that person. It was an eventual thing. I figured if they were deleting that many files and losing things, it was eventual that they weren't going to have a job there anymore too. So they were full of incidents. But related to backups, so this is something kind of interesting. I've never really thought as much about this, and it's maybe less and less likely to happen with more and more data living in flight versus static type data. But it was a really interesting, and this was a very large company that went out of business. This comes back to my DC 313 talk, where we were talking about security implementations and some of the problems that run. And their DR plan went great. So the DR plan went smooth. They had done it many, many times. But when a disaster struck, they could not restore. And this is where it gets really weird. So they had an off-site plan, but it wasn't very regional. And it was regional, but it was less regional. So what that means is they started with, we contracted this company to have all of our backups off-site. They were supposed to be somewhere else. Well, the company then subcontracted the data to be a little bit more regional to a different data center, unbeknownst to the client. Well, when the disaster had struck, it struck both areas. That normally isn't a problem, but it did hit their main office to a total loss because it's like a tornado type thing. When they fired the generators up at the data center, the generators were moved closer to the data center than they should have been and caused a problem and deleted and degaussed essentially the equipment that was on the wall that also contained their backups. So they said it was like the most inconceivable thing that happened, but it did happen, and it did cause them to lose everything. And it was like, so sometimes it can get really worse. Now, someone asked, how do I check my backups? We're using the SolarWinds, and it's essentially does the MD5. It does the hash to verify each backup. Their system's very, very thorough. And it's one of the reasons I'm hesitant, because I see people whining about, oh my gosh, I can't believe SolarWinds cost that much, or some of these. I know it's expensive, but it does everything in automation. Now, that's for general full backups. The other side of it is, yes, there's other customers with other backup solutions and other solutions related to like how I do my backups or how we do backups of a Linux box and things like that. Like there's always custom backup scripts that we do. We have a client that has like just a series, like they're only paying for backup of a machine, and we came up with a strategy with the other machines because the only thing that ever changes on them is the databases. So those databases get synced over to another machine for backup purposes. So they don't have to back up every single one, but they back up like that database, because that's of course what changes. Even for us, we are doing hourly backups of all the data at our office. I think actually some of it, I'm going to put together like a video on all the little things we back up. But we're, instead of just syncing the whole VM, which is overkill, we do weekly snapshots of our virtual machines, but we do like half-hour increments and 1 hour increments of all the data that we generate. So that's one of the videos I was actually working on Saturday before I made a really bad mistake. I wanted to try out some beta software. It wasn't a mistake, like I typed something wrong. The beta software crashed a continuous backup I had. It wasn't a big deal. I just had to restore a couple things, things like that. But I know the risk of doing that. I know I have all my backups, and I know my backups are good and verified. So I'm not, like, it's a time-consuming thing, but the time was just spent restoring as opposed to doing videos, and I just did some other stuff and I caught up on a few other things. What do I do for offsite backups? Combination of things. So I have what I do and I have what we sell our clients, and that's not all in the same because of different needs, and it really varies on clients. But my general MSP backup sale is going to be SolarWinds. Like my cookie cutter, they have a general Windows server, your standardized stuff. Once they get into custom servers and custom Linux servers, are going to be something different solutions being sold. But for my standard MSP sale is going to be, my go-to is going to generally be SolarWinds backup. That's my backup system for a lot of our clients. It gives us a really nice dashboard, integrates with our MSP control panel, really smooth, really good. I've done a review on it. I love the software. I also do like Cloudberry. Cloudberry is not maybe as fast. It's close. Cloudberry's got a great product. Their restore is great. What Cloudberry has a big advantage of is Cloudberry is a software company that allows you to choose your own back end. I like Cloudberry for that reason. So they're great. They are a good tool to use too. It's kind of nice because they are platform agnostic, so you can buy Cloudberry for all different front end platforms, Linux, Windows, etc. And back end, they have a multitude of storage providers, which can include your own storage devices, not just something Cloudberry provides. So you can use Cloudberry to multi-destination, more than one cloud provider. So you're going, okay, I want to use Azure and Backblaze plus Google, and then maybe I want to keep one local copy for myself, maybe even one. You can even split this up with a client. You can set a client backup solution with Cloudberry that would allow you to back up to a local device for the client, maybe one more, even if it's just a backup hard drive or maybe a NAS that they have on site. You can send a copy to your office, and then you can send a copy to the cloud, so you have like a really strong redundancy of the backup. Is it bedtime, Marcus?
Yeah.
Kids got to go to bed. Wave hi. There's 102 people you can say hi to.
102?
102? Does that make your dad cool? All right. Have fun, man. Oh, don't. Okay. Don't be tripping on cords. Anyways, good night. So there's a few different options there, and when it comes to, and this is where you get into the custom solutions. When you get into custom solutions, we have clients are syncing things across there. We have clients that just have data in a different manner than standard. So we are actually working with some companies because they have multiple data centers at geographic locations. They sync the data themselves. And we're talking like, 30, 40, 50 terabytes at a time that they have to keep in sync. And we have some of them using FreeNAS along with synchronization to get the data all shuffled around. So that's another, it kind of depends. I mean, at some point when you have, 70, 80 terabytes of data, it doesn't make sense to use a SolarWinds backup solution. So SolarWinds is like your standard go-to Windows Server client, or even backup some of the workstations, Cloudberry for custom, and then after that it kind of just goes what fits the client. And then even what we're doing is, and this is partly because I like rolling some of my own stuff, even though I have other tools at my disposal. And it's not being cheap. I hate when people think, well, you're just being cheap. But no, I actually like exploring some of the options because sometimes those become the scalable options for our clients. I use Syncthing. I love Syncthing. We have it syncing between like my laptop, my server at home, another server offsite, and the servers at our office. And Syncthing is bandwidth throttled, so as my server backups are happening, which are happening every half an hour for certain things like our invoicing system and some of the knowledge bases that we have, or even Unify, every half hour creates a backup, every half hour creates another backup. So when it's doing that, it just syncs it in real time. It just grabs that file and replicates it at all those locations as needed. So that's another. I've done a review on Syncthing. I got an in-depth video on it. I'm going to do. Maybe it hasn't really changed much as a product, but I thought about reviewing it because each time I review Syncthing, I'm talking about more and more files at scale that it has at Sync. They've really added to the algorithm to make it better and tweaked it a lot, so it's even more efficient for doing massive file syncing. So it finally hit what they refer to as their 1.0 version, which means it just takes it out of beta. So it has, it's really come up. It's a great product. I'm using it for years. And picture it as your own Dropbox, keeping things in sync. For even things like, we'll use an example, the YouTube template that I added right here. When I added the YouTube template, I added it on my laptop. It has the templates because the templates that I use for my YouTube videos, for the live stream, sometimes I start a video and I upload it from the shop and I finish it at my house as far as uploading. That's why you'll see like these weird releases that I do in terms of scheduling. But having that file, the template synced across all my devices all the time means, I'm working on a shop, okay, time to leave, it's uploading, it's gonna take, half an hour to upload. I drive home, grab dinner or whatever, then I can open up my laptop and that template that I already started, I can finish on the laptop and push the upload. Syncthing is just a great tool for that. It works. That's the one thing I do use in FreeNAS as a plugin. The only jail I run is a Syncthing jail. Everything else I run is a separate VM, not on FreeNAS, but just an XCP-NG in general. Some of the other things we're working on right now is there's going to be I have some servers we're building for clients, so I may talk a little bit more about server deployments and some of the transitions related to that. Because that's always, it's a hard project if you've not done it before, to go, okay, we got to migrate all these old servers, consolidate it, move the domains over. And we're actually, because of the client has had so many problems over the years, and I've mentioned this, I think, in the last vlog, we don't do a rip and replace when we take over clients. We do a transitioned planned upgrade. So the transition planned upgrade for this client is new servers and like a transition, like, okay, do we even want to bring their old domain? They only have 9 computers on a domain. Do we even care about the domain, or we just recreate those 9 users? And in this particular one, we're going to recreate the 9 users because we know the domain has so many issues that were legacy, ghosts in the shell, ghosts in the machine from the domain. So it's worth it to us just to rebuild the domain from scratch and rejoin those computers to the domain. The more work that is for the transition, the less headache it is, because they've been a legacy migrating domain information and archive stuff and then different objects in their Active Directory for us that have dated back to the 2003 server days and done in-place upgrades with their domain. So yeah. How often do I buy a new laptop for myself? Due for a new one soon. This X250 I bought quite a while ago, as I know it's older. I think this is a 3 or 4 year old laptop. I will keep a laptop until it's, I don't know, maybe just too slow to do things. So right now it's actually far from it. So yeah, I don't buy one very often. I actually don't spend much money on myself when it comes to technology. I make sure it's fast enough to get what I need to get done, and that's it. I don't just because have it. I do like my gaming system is nice, but once again, it's not that nice. But my kids play it more than me. I don't really play that many games. What do I think about Proxmox? I think you should go to Learn Linux TV to learn more about Proxmox, and yeah, that's it's a good tool. It works. It's on my to-do list to do a Proxmox versus XCP-NG, but honestly, there's very, very little fundamental differences until you scale upwards. Until you really get up there into the large scale deployments, Proxmox and XCP-NG, they're tit for tat. They have a high number of features that are very similar to each other. So it's a hard decision. If you're only running one server and you like Proxmox, keep with it. There's not a reason to switch. there's nothing wrong with it at all. It seems to be a really good project. So there's that. What do I think about G Suite going up? Not much. It went up, whatever. The product's been the same price for quite a few years. Inflation causes prices to go up. And I talked about this in my SolarWinds video when people said, "Oh my gosh, it went up 4%." Once you become a little bit bigger as a business, it just the money goes, especially for in a service industry where you need knowledgeable people. Knowledgeable people don't come for free. My payroll far exceeds any. Here's what does make a bigger deal to Tom: cost of living increases and increases in payroll are just in every measurable way more significant than G Suite or the tooling software that I use going up. Not that I want them to raise the price of my tooling software, but that is much bigger expense. So in the scheme of business, it's not. I mean, I wish it didn't go up, but I understand why it went up. So that's kind of how I feel about it. So it's not the end of the world, but I understand they've had the same prices for years. Is what it is. So you switched from Proxmox to XCP-NG. That's awesome, Stuart. Love hearing that. So I'm a big fan of XCP-NG, but I'm not down on there. How do you set up VPN and Syncthing? Do you use Syncthing on mobile devices or phone? I've not had the need to use it on mobile devices or phone. I know it does have an option for it. I just don't. There's nothing I care about syncing to Syncthing on my phone. So it has an option. I've heard it works. I have lack of use case for it. So maybe I could test it, but then my testing wouldn't be very thorough because I could just verify that it works. But you already knew that. Read the reviews in the app. People love it. They think it works great for syncing things on their phone. I mean, it's what it does and cool, but I don't know what I want synced on my phone. I use Google Docs, by the way. That's the only thing I do sync on my phone, so it's not like I need documents on my phone for things. As far as VPNing Syncthing, it's arbitrary. Just it's an IP. It works on TCP. Point it at the other side of TCP on the other side of the VPN, and that's it. Yeah, so me and Jay, if you happen to notice on Learn Linux TV, that his videos are also filmed at my studio. He lives local here in Detroit. He's a friend of mine, and yeah, I let him use my studio on an as-needed basis to film his videos. Anything he wants to film there, he uses my camera. I lend it to him. Jay is a smart dude, does great work, and and I told him too. I said, "Look, dude, there's a lot of people asking me about Proxmox. Go be the Proxmox guy because you actually use it." He uses it both in development and production. It's a tool that he uses at his company actively. So his knowledge about it is like my knowledge about XCP-NG. He's got deployments of it. He's physically using it. He runs business with it. So it's something that he's using and is very knowledgeable. He's a really knowledgeable guy about Linux in general, but he does specifically use it. My review of it, I'm not using it actively anywhere. I have 0 clients using it. I have a lot of clients using XCP-NG, very few, I would say 0 that I'm directly aware of using Proxmox. If they are using it, I don't know about it because they've not contracted me to touch that side of their business. Hence, my knowledge on it would only be, it would take me a long time to learn it, and back to sometimes I say the words, I don't have a use case. So, hey, thank you, Philip Buchanan. All is very well. Yeah, me and Jay have talked about doing it. We're trying to figure out how to do it because me and Jay did, because we both co-host the Sunday Morning Linux Review, and 2 weeks ago, 2 weeks this Sunday, we had a discussion about that. Hey, thank you very much, Peter Ross. I'm sorry, I'm not going to try and say your last name, so I'm probably say it wrong. Thank you very much for the donation. And thank you for subscribing. So, but we and Jay were talking about, like, we really went down the list, and we dove into some technical details between Proxmox and XCP-NG, and it's impressive. Like, feature-wise, they're at parity with each other on so many levels, even right down to being able to do live VM and memory snapshots and things like that. So that's really good. Any recommendations, security news, blog sites to follow? Yes, Talos Security is good. Krebs on Security is amazing. So Brian Krebs, I love his writing style. Dimitri, I'm trying to remember his name. The person's over at, he's at the head of Google's Project Zero his name's eluding me at this moment. I've talked about him a couple times because his security stuff when he releases he's not necessarily security news, but his breach details are very interesting. But definitely follow Brian Krebs. Amazing stuff. Bruce Schneier. Oh, the guy's amazing. I got to meet him. I got to ride an elevator with Bruce Schneier once, and that was really, I don't know. That's my Bruce Schneier story. I got to ride an elevator with the guy. He's amazing. It was coincidental that I was in the elevator with him. I was there while he was doing a keynote address. So Steve Gibson, Security Now podcast. Listen to that. I listen to that every week. I think it's great. There's some love and hate. Maybe you agree, don't agree with Steve Gibson, but the overarching Steve Gibson, very knowledgeable guy. Quirky, but definitely knows his stuff when it comes to security. His explanations are really good. He's really talented at what he does. iOS FaceTime quality with Unify. So is there people with Apple devices having problems? I don't know not that I'm aware of. I don't know. No one's ever brought that to my attention. So no, not that I'm aware of, but I do know there has been trouble in the past with the power saving features on Unify, and this doesn't come back recently. This goes back a long time ago. So you could have someone with an old firmware version. There was some problems with the way the Apple implemented power saving Wi-Fi features that caused problems with Unify. But to my knowledge, those have all been solved with firmware updates, and there were mitigations of just turning off certain power saving features on the Unify to stop the iPhones from having a problem. And the detail, as I understood it, was due to a poor implementation by Apple based on RFC standards. Thoughts on ubnt.com changing to ui.com? I don't know. I don't think about it. That's probably some marketing decision. So, the Beards with Talos podcast. Yeah, I haven't really listened. I think I maybe listened to one episode. I don't remember if it really grabbed me or not. It's hard listening to all the different security episodes. I read a lot faster than I can listen sometimes. Even when I listen, I'm listening at 2x all the time. So that's actually a problem because I listen and I'm in silence, so to speak, a lot. So I'm not always engaging with people on a verbal level. So I have to slow myself down to talk in videos. Because if not, I want to talk really fast and make things go as fast as I hear them when I'm listening to a podcast. And you get moving really fast, and that doesn't do much good. It becomes unusable at some point. But Beer with Talos, I'm trying to think if there's another one. The podcasts are on my phone. That's the one that really comes to mind. I don't know. You know what? I will make a list and I will put it on my forums.lawrencesystems.com. I'll make a list of all the security blogs I regularly follow. I have them all bookmarked, and I'll put through all the places like Reddit. NetSec is great, man. That's good for sometimes discussions I have with people, things like that. But so there's definitely a handful of people I follow. I also have security friends. So we actively, like even on Facebook, we engage in those kind of conversations and talk about things like that. In some of the companies like Sophos, their Naked Security blog, great blog. That's one of them I follow too. So yeah, I'll actually table this conversation so I can put together a concise list and everyone can join in on the forums and kind of talk about that. So that would probably be a good thing. I think that is a great idea for a forum post. And I think it'll get some engagement because, hey, why not? Let's all share all the ones out there that we do. I've been trying to post a little bit more on some of the news forums a little bit. Maybe I'll post some of that in my forums there. So let's see. Paul's Security Weekly. I haven't followed that one. I've seen it pop up once in a while. I doubt I don't think they owned UI.com already. That's probably part of the deal is just being able to afford to buy a 2-letter domain. The other thing too, so there's a couple security things. If you follow me on Twitter, I tweet it out. And one of the things I try to do, this is something that annoys me about many news organizations, is they want a more salacious headline. I get it because they're a news organization, and they have they want your attention, but they don't always credit properly, or you have to dig for the source of it. That's why my Oklahoma's Not Okay video is all about UpGuard. not about the place where I actually had noticed. I noticed it in another news organization who I didn't waste my time referencing. I always like to go right to the source. Someone had posted in the forums today about the apt problem in the apt package manager and having an HTTPS problem. But once again, my reply is directly to the mailing list in Debian, which both shows the mitigation for it, what happened, how it works, and how you get around it. So, I try to really focus on some of the sources for some of these things, which is why I spend so much time reading on them. I'll point to the kernel mailing list where it was mentioned, the Debian mailing list for the package manager. Listen, anytime I can be the closer to the source, to the people that either made the discovery or are reporting directly on it as a bug report, as a CVE, the people documenting CVE, those are a lot of my go-tos for when I know about a security flaw and how I like to share it. That way it never gets convoluted, the old telephone game where I heard it from this person and they passed it along and a little bit of information was lost or changed or, tweaked a little bit. That's not necessarily what you want. You want to understand, especially when you're talking about security, you're talking about your distributions and problems with it. You want the most upfront information from the people that best understand the flaw and best understand how to mitigate that flaw and filed the CVE, because the CVE isn't just filed to notify us, it's also filed with how the mitigation was being put forth. What do I think on the new FreeNAS OS? I love it. So far, I've learned, and this has been slow for me to get some of the FreeNAS 11.2 videos out. I've learned some of the quirks I've had with it have to do completely with my build, and I built it on my lab machines and it works fine. So I've made some discoveries that I'll share, but it's also just bad choices I had for some of the hardware. I'm going to do some 11.2 hardware discussions related to that as well. So that's going to be an interesting, some of the stuff I put together on that. At least I find it interesting. Maybe you will too. But I will be doing a whole bunch of, I'm going to do a getting started with FreeNAS 11.2 video and kind of putting all that together. Now, part of that is, and a person is probably listening here, we're going to be onboarding probably at least one more person to help organize some of the business stuff, so it'll free up more of my time so I can get back to video making. So there's some other changes, company changes that aren't finalized yet. We're still working out the details, and we'll get those done. How did Unify Protect get released as basic features missing from Unify Video? I don't know. Lots of non-Intel NICs. Someone may have been following me on the XCP-NG forums. I don't just post in my forums. Yeah, I may be ordering some Intel NICs. I've had, so this is this is weird because it's working fine in FreeNAS 11.1, but I'm running into a quirk in FreeNAS 11.2 with the same card, and I can't tell if it's the card or not. So I can't tell, but what happens is sometimes the card, even though it's statically assigned, seems to lose the gateway on boot up. You edit and save the card and it works, but I can't repeat that on another machine, even with the same card. So I may just reload my machine. It's probably because I did it from beta. I don't know. I'm trying to sort some of those things out. But related to, because someone said Intel NIC, the XCP-NG machines I have seem to have problems with the CTX driver, which is CYA. They're having a weird quirk that I'm not seeing with other Intel cards. So I need to order some more Intel cards so I can do some A/B testing. And granted, I bought these Chelsea cards. I've done a video on them. They seem to work good for FreeNAS, especially the 11.2 when I did the video. They're fast, they work good, and I'm having no problems with them in terms of transferring data at 10 gig, but when you attach a VM to them, they don't seem to transfer the VMs at 10 gig. But they are working properly at 10 gig as a storage connector for a SAN connection. So, but they're also older cards. They're like 11-year-old cards. So, yeah, what the hell? I'll spend some money and get some Intel ones. I always would abandon the Realtek NICs. Yeah. I've said that before. When I do my PFsense videos, I do tell you, well, my getting started with PFsense 2018 video, I'm going to do a 2019 version pretty soon here. I tell you to buy a very specific, series at least, not the card you should buy, 4-port Intel network card. If you're going to custom build your PFsense, build a couple of them, grab a couple of them network cards. They're inexpensive on eBay used. You can buy these like, $50, $60. 4-port Intel NICs, they work wonderful, and they give you another advantage. Let's say you have a total catastrophic failure of your PFsense that you custom built. no problem. If you use the same 4-port NIC card, even if that NIC failed in that one, but you bought another similar Intel NIC, you can just drop your PFsense, load the config file in another PFsense box with that same network card, and no matter what physical box it goes into, the network ports line up to be exactly the same. IGB 0 through IGB 3, the alignment's the same, so you can actually transplant your network card directly over without any problems at all. So it's another advantage you have to using it and having a spare on hand. That way, if you do have a catastrophic failure, it's really quick to recover from with very little headache. Also, I've had Realtek cards just cause headaches that I can't explain. Yeah, always abandon Realtek NICs. One of the questions you have is, I'm not going to stay all night on this because I am a little bit exhausted. I was at a business networking event before I was here. I'm tired. I'm going to watch some TV. I'm going to post on the forum a list of all the security blogs that I go and start that discussion and keep engaging with people and things like that. Oh, you know what I'll mention? I got some hate mail the other day, and hate mail's fun. And I say it that way, and I thought about replying, and sometimes I don't bother because it'd be falling on deaf ears. But the person was upset. They wanted to purchase, I don't know, a Unify or something like that. They had like a whole, just network layout questions, like a bunch of Q&A, and the Q&A was incomplete, so I would have had to send several emails. And in the end, they wanted to purchase, not from me, just from my Amazon link and things like that. And I'm just like, they got upset, and I said, well, you can post on our forums for free, or I can help you with your network as a consulting project. And they got just so livid with me, and I'm like, look, you don't understand. Like, the margins, I mean, I'm thankful for anyone who clicks on my Amazon link to buy stuff, but it's like it's a 1%, 2% margin. It only works when like 1 million people buy something, I make a few bucks, but yeah, the margins are super low on some of this stuff. The people, and that's what his rant was to me. I've bought stuff through your Amazon store. You should be able to help me design my network and pick out which just a whole thing like that. Yeah, and I'm not complaining at all. Thank you for everyone who does contribute. Some people, I don't think they understand that it takes time for me to, I'm very thorough. If you contract me to avail your network, I'm very happy to talk to you in an open forum discussion because your question helps others who may have similar questions, and it's all indexed by Google, so those questions can be answered again if they come up, like, hey, how do we set up this or set up that? But to provide full network consulting so you can buy a single product off an Amazon link, I mean, it takes too much time for me to dive into all that. So, yeah, that person they wrote me a rant email. I don't really get it. What do I think of UBNT versus Edge Router versus PFsense use case, license fees? And we don't really do many Edge Routers at all. Edge Routers are more Unify, less Edge. Thoughts on Datto RMM? Never used it. Pretty much the big guys in the market are ConnectWise and SolarWinds, so I have no opinion on Datto, just not used it. I think Datto's an interesting company that seems to be getting bigger. I'd ask someone who's used it whether or not they think it's good or not. So, deployed thin clients, not very often. They're not very popular. They're kind of a headache. We've taken some out because it just was a headache for the client. They couldn't get the things done they needed to get done, so they ended up removing the thin clients. Some people lack empathy. No, I don't. I'm not mad at a person at all about it. I don't take it personally. I just wish when I try, I never reply more than 1 or 2 emails. I don't want to, I want to educate them. I want to make sure they understand. I'm not, trying to be rude, but time is money. YouTube is a scalable way for me to use my time. So I go ahead and put something out on YouTube. I put it so it can be as thorough and complete. I don't leave you hanging. I don't put a video out, but leave one little piece out that you have to pay me for. No, I tell you the entire process, how you get something accomplished from loading PFsense or whatever video I do, and I try to be very thorough. That's very scalable. What's not scalable is when people want one-on-one training. I have finite amounts of time to get things done. I have a business. I have bills to pay. I got kids that need things, and so I have to manage my time like that. YouTube is very scalable. Individual one-on-one time doesn't scale, so I have to get paid for that. So yeah. Set up a new R720. Awesome. I like good stuff there. So what else do we have here? have you deployed thin clients? Realtek don't have proper driver for BSD. I think they have a driver for BSD, but yeah, I don't know. I've definitely had problems with it. And it varies. It's usually those cheap onboard Realteks, but you got to remember, a lot of those onboard Realteks are kind of, they're the cheapest one that they could stick on there and things like that. So, yeah, thin clients with Citrix on the platform. I mean, there's the things like that are very, there are use cases where they make a lot of sense. So there's times you can use them. Any specific reason recommending custom PFsense box versus devices we Unify, Edge Router, MikroTik? We don't use MikroTik at all. MikroTik, so make sure I'm saying it right. Unify is great for that. Whiskey's in this class. PFsense is just kind of a great go-to, solid, predictable firewall. But if they want things like UTM, we do Untangle. Yeah, I didn't see the mention here, but that's why I reviewed Untangle, is because there's our nice deployments for things like that. Fireplace? No, far from IoT. That is a real fireplace. This is a giraffe on right here. So this is my my wife's Zen giraffe, and yep, that's fully fireplaced. Like in, it has been converted to gas, so it's been slightly modernized. But no, we're not doing an IoT fireplace at Tom's house. Sorry, that's. Yeah, no, we're not doing that. As an MSP, is there any conferences in attend this year? I don't know. I might be attending one of them. I'm not. So this is me, and this may not be you, but I will say that for when it comes to conferences, if it's a hacker conference, I'm all in. I'm like trying to figure out which Linux conferences and hacker conferences I'm going to go to each year in events. But when it comes to the other ones, the business conferences, I don't feel as comfortable there. They're not my, I know they're my peers because I'm doing similar things as them, but they're not always the places that I have the most desire to be. So I don't really, yeah, Southeast Linux Festival, so I go to the Ohio Linux Fest. That's definitely something I'll probably go this year to the Ohio Linux Fest. I'm probably going to be at GurCon, which is a hacker conference, so that's on my radar to go this year. Tickets are pricey, but worth it. What's the best advice to give to another computer business? I'm going to do another video on this one. This is a topic. I always leverage your knowledge, not products. That's something important. When you leverage your knowledge, you can make a lot more controlled decisions and better money in the long term when you're leveraging knowledge versus people who go, I'm going to resell this product. Because when you get into focusing on product resale as your way you always make money, you're reselling someone else's product. You're not really selling your product. When you leverage your knowledge, you're reselling you as a product. So you're going to be able to leverage it more. Now that is harder. It means you have to have more knowledge, but it's more rewarding because you're leveraging yourself on there. So I may do something more in depth to explain a little bit more what that means, but that's one of the things that I look as a key to my success is the fact that we've always focused on leveraging knowledge, not leveraging our ability to sell someone else's product. Yeah, DEF CON. That's what this is here that we're doing local. Yeah, you may see me at DEF CON. So that's a big thing. Is like I said, hacker conference. I'm all in. Very comfortable there. I've been going to them for a long time. Different ones over the years, like for the last 20 years. That's the place where I'm comfortable. So business conferences, I just always feel a little out of place. I'm way more on the hacker geek side and way less on the business side. I mean, I make money and things like that. Like that's an important aspect of what I do, and it's important, but it's not where my focus is. When someone brags like, "Oh, my MSP made $20 million last year," and I'm like, "What'd you do? That's interesting." That's not how much you made. I'm not saying money's not important, but if you start off with how much you made, we're probably not thinking the same way. Cool. I'm glad you're making money. That's awesome. Thank you. But that's not where I lead. That's not my interest. I'm like, what did you do? What is the interesting technical problem you solved? That fascinates me. And that's why hacker conferences and me going to those are always so fun, because that's where my interest lies, is in that. Like I said, it's not that I'm saying money doesn't matter. I'm not trying to be pretentious or something. I'm trying to tell you that that's not, I need to make money to pay my bills and buy laptops, but it's also not the interesting thing that you lead with. I want to know what technical things were done. That's just my interest level, and it's also why my sales tactics are so much different, or maybe a little bit lax. Do you install any free PBX system for clients? Yes, install and manage them. Not a lot yet. We're slowly getting into it as we do takeovers on those. We have a messy disaster of a free PBX that I have to deal with tomorrow. Low on the list of things that Tom wants to do, but I got to go hack it because it was a hostile IT takeover with no passwords. But that's what part of the fun is. It's also Linux. I just got to change the root password on it. I just don't like the fact that I got to go physically to the client to make this happen. Hello from Chicago. All over the place. Hello from Ohio. Ohio's flat. There's nothing interesting in Ohio. I'm sorry. Actually, interesting fact about Ohio. Ohio is the place with the most astronauts. So something about that state that makes people want to get off the planet. Hello from the Philippines. A fascination in me is a global audience. That's always interesting. It's just cool interacting. And I've thought this ever since I got online in the 90s when I could interact with people from all over. That was just always an interesting side point. LOL, I assume you're laughing at the fact that you live in Ohio. Hey, you do have jungle gyms in Ohio. So you got that, and they got a lot of hot sauces there. So, yeah. I can get down with that. That's one nice thing. New Zealand, Lord of the Rings was filmed there, if I'm not mistaken. So that's a cool shout out for New Zealand. That's pretty cool. Ohio, I used to have to drive through Ohio, man. It wasn't something I ever looked forward to. When I worked in corporate, our location was in Detroit. We had one location in Ohio and another location in Kentucky, so I had to go through Ohio. It was never exciting. I spent a week in Cleveland in one day. Yeah, I've had to drove through the I-80, I-90 corridor when I used to have to go to New York, visiting family and things like that years ago. Not exciting. I'm sorry. Nothing there. Cleveland is the armpit of America. I've heard that a lot. You guys got the Rock and Roll. Isn't the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame's there? I think so. Yeah. It's a long state. Look, I just set cruise control and try not to fall asleep when I go in Ohio. They really love writing tickets. You know, I don't see Vince. He's usually in here. He emailed me today about storage servers, and he didn't reply. I don't know if it was sticker shock or what, but I gave him the raw cost of just the hard drives for his request. So I don't see you here, Vince. I don't know if you're in here and you haven't commented, but did you get sticker shock when I sent you just how much that amount of storage costs? I'd recommended the 45 drives system, so they're great, but yeah, it's expensive. You didn't know where I live. I live in Detroit, so Kings Island. Oh yeah, I forgot about Kings Island, Carolina. Oh, it's the tornado alley down there. So, yeah, I don't know. You want to know anything about Detroit before I leave? I've lived here my whole life. It's not. Well, I live south of Detroit. I say I'm from Detroit, but technically, I live in the city of Taylor. My office is in Southgate. I'm 3 miles from my house to my office is 3 miles away. And for me to be in Detroit proper is a 13 or 12 mile drive. It's very short for me to get into Detroit proper. So, but I think people who said whoever said they're from Chicago, you may live in the suburbs of Chicago, but you know that's generally how we refer to it. You live in Chicago, or even if you're on the edge of Chicago. CMU had centers in Detroit. Oh, okay. Oh yeah, the Valley National Park. Cool. Yep. There are some neat things, so I won't dog on Ohio too bad. Oh yeah. Henry Ford Museum. That's a pretty awesome place. My sister works there. My sister does the exhibit for the Model T cars and a few others. My sister's a historian, art historian thing. She's very, very different than me. She likes old art stuff. What else we got here? Anything else? Any last questions? The whiskey's getting a little bit low for the Jack Daniels here, which is actually in a Jack Daniels cup. How did I get started with my current business? Ooh, I won't go too in depth, but in short, I worked in corporate America. I was the head of IT for a big company related to the automotive supply chain management. We were a transportation provider, but when that company tanked, essentially, it was broken up, and those became my first IT clients. So I have been 2003 is when all that went down. So officially my company started in 2003. So now I've had this business is going on 16 years that I've been in business. So it's just one of those opportunity happened. I decided to start a business rather than work for anyone. So that was when I was 26 years old. 25 or 26 is when I started my company. How do I go about bids and contracts? I think I have a video on that called How We Acquired Our Clients. I'm going to do a follow-up to it, and I'm still going to break it out with excluding YouTube, because YouTube is a good growth model for us, and we get a lot of clients that contract us from YouTube, and thank you for any of you that have hired me in the past or plan on hiring me in the future. The other side of that, though, is face-to-face networking. There's a video I'm going to be releasing either Friday or Saturday that I just haven't had a chance to edit or upload yet, talking about that. I go still, to this day, physical networking events, talking to people. That is where the majority of my work comes from. Direct business, word of mouth, and things like that. So that's still the number one acquisition of clients, is from direct people buy from people they like type things, going to sales events and stuff like that. Hello, my daughter.
Hi.
I'm talking to 100 people online for Vlog Thursday.
Oh, that sounds exciting. It's not a vlog if it's live.
It's not vlog if it's live?
No.
No, you want to wave hi to everyone? My other child.
It's, the boy asleep.
Yes, the other child, one child's in bed, the other child just got home from work. So, well, the glass is almost empty, so I'm not going to be rebooting it. So I'm going to watch TV. Ooh. Brought to you by Big B. So, Yeah, what do I think of a 250 gig for a 6-year in office? Not unheard of. How's that? I've got clients like that. There's always another disaster around the corner, things like that. So definitely a thing, definitely a problem. So I think that is it, my friends. Thank you for all of you that were watching. I love that there's 100 of you here. If there's no final questions, for home use, do you suggest PFsense, Unify? Unify is great for home. I have no problems with Unify or PFsense at home. I like both. All depends on the features you need. Did you ever consider other backup for small bin-sized clients to service all that your company using SFTP? Not really, because you run into some liability there. I have done that. I used to have a backup services before I moved it all to the cloud that I used to run in my own office, but I also did it with high levels of encryption and password protection on boot type stuff. So you have to be very secure and very much make sure you're able to fulfill whatever it is. Don't do it unless you're confident that you can really do it right. Oh, Synology video. Trust me, they asked me today because they sent me some equipment, and this is going to be brought to you by Synology because they are not sponsoring in monetary. They're sponsoring by offering me the equipment to review. I always disclose that when I do those videos. So those videos are coming. I'm testing it. I just got to put it all down in writing. I've been really swamped, so which is not a bad thing, but that's a part of it. Oh, awesome. Thank you. So fun story, and maybe, I don't think Doug's watching right now, or Doug even watches my vlogs. Hi, Doug, if you are. But one of the things that's funny, another IT company, I had they're a competitor, I guess you could say. They're 2 miles from my shop. Doug's a great guy, and it's funny because we talked about it. Like, some of his employees have watched my videos and things like that to set up things that are being sold to clients that I guess you could consider potential clients for me, but whatever. I don't mind that at all. That's why I like giving this information out. It makes the it's part of the thing. Like the hackers are so. You know, the guy who did this talk at the DC 313. So the guy puts his talk together, and like he said, he's got a super high billable rate. He does, you know, Fortune 1000 company security auditing. But you get a bunch of hackers in a room together, they're like, they throw that out the door. They're like, buy me a beer, dude. I'll audit your security. Like, we'll talk about it. We'll talk about how you do some of this and how you set up your OPSEC policies and da 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 da. And that's so true of that. And that knowledge sharing and information is why I'm so comfortable at a Linux conference, at a hacker conference, because sharing knowledge is something of value to me. People shared knowledge for me to get where I'm at, and I like to return that favor to that next generation or other people that are just interested in learning. Getting more people in tech is important. There's a lot of complicated stuff. There's a lot of knowledge, and I certainly don't know all of it. If you're still listening, I didn't forget about you. I will ask Phil, or maybe I will do an Ansible part 3 with Jay. Jay's an Ansible person as well. Jay has a different take on Ansible. He does some different things, but he's also good at Ansible. I am weak at Ansible. I know the basics of how to do it, but I'm not an Ansible expert because it's not my day job. It is the day job of both Phil and Jay. All right. I think. Yeah, I try to do some short, some long. It all depends on the topic. So thank you very much, though, Vic. Awesome on that. Thank you. I appreciate the compliment on there. I try to keep it concise. Yeah, all I need is a camera and a 6-pack to get all the info. That's true. I am an open book. If you buy me a beer, I share a lot of information. So, Thomas, glad to see you here. You'll have to watch it and rewind here because I am getting ready to jump off. So, thank you. Thank you for those of you that threw money at me. That will definitely buy me another beer and definitely help produce another episode. Ansible's outstanding. Learn it. If your job is DevOps and managing Linux servers, learn Ansible. It will save your life. If you want to manage things at scale, you learn Ansible. It is a great tool for doing that. So spend some time on it. There's a lot of documentation on it. It's definitely a great thing to have in your tool set. Like, I understand all the concept of use case for it. I just don't, in a practical manner, use Ansible all the time. I play with it. I toy with it. I get stuff set up, but it's not my day job. So that's why I don't do the Ansible videos myself, because it is important when you're talking about a DevOps tool that you hear it from a DevOps practical usage standpoint, from someone really, really smart like Phil, who really, really does good Ansible's videos, or like Jay, who also is an Ansible user at their day job. So, router for LT fell over. Cradlepoint are popular. We got some clients with Cradlepoints. They work good. I think that's it. Thank you, everyone. If you have other questions, just throw them in the forums. You'll probably notice my obsessive behaviors mean I try to reply to everyone I possibly can in the forums. That means I send out tons of emails, and I send out tons of replies as well on all this. So please jump in the forums, post on there. There's a lot of other smart people, and many of them smarter than me, that will also help answer your questions, and that's what I want. I want to be a big knowledge sharing place, so please throw your questions there, and there's a whole section for video suggestions, so throw that out there. I love suggestions. Put it out there, the discussions. And it's funny because sometimes maybe the suggestion is something I've done, or maybe a twist on it, but hey, that's why it's there for. So thanks to all of you. Like, subscribe, and all that. Well, you probably are. That's why you're here anyway. So awesome. Anything I can do, just like I said, continue discussion in the forums, jump it over there. Security news list. Poke me if I don't post that. It may happen tomorrow morning. It's not going to happen tonight, but I will work on that real soon. Because I have them all bookmarked. I'll just dump all the bookmarks. Like, these are the places to listen to. What do you listen to, or what do you read? Where's your go-to source for a lot of security news? There's so much of it. So yeah, that's about it. So have fun. Thanks.